Grace and peace, friends and family. Welcome to another conversation. This is Joy, Pink Girl Teaches, and I want to thank you so much for your time. I hope that as you continue to journey beyond narcissistic abuse, that you walk at the pace of grace, that you own your emotions, all of them, no matter what they are. They're, again, never an indictment of your character, but just a response to what you've been through. Today, I want to have a conversation with you, and it's that battle within that we don't always talk about, but it's so important. And I always say this, or I say it pretty often, that don't placate your feelings and emotions. And I always say, it's important that we sort through our emotions, that we acknowledge what we're going through, what we're thinking, what we're feeling. And this is one of those conversations that I want to have. It's that battle within that we don't always talk about. I want us to stop. Yes, stop self-gaslighting. This is a direct symptom of PTSD, CPTSD, and even of depression. One of the purposes of gaslighting when a narcissist or just a toxic person does it is to elicit a response or a reaction from us. They want to be able to control your emotions, to invalidate how you're feeling, or to cause you to suppress your emotions and invalidate your thoughts. That is the purpose of gaslighting. But with self-gaslighting, it's not the voice of somebody else. The person that is suppressing your thoughts, invalidating your thoughts, that is controlling your emotions in a negative way, that is giving you negative responses and reactions, is that inner voice. The tormentor is not without. The tormentor is within. One of the fiercest battles that we fight is the one we fight when we try to be comfortable within our own skin. When somebody on the outside of you tries to do things to you, it's always external. But when it's internal, it's a different type of battle. This is one that you must fight and you must win at all costs. It is so crucial that you become comfortable, you become confident, and you find peace within your own skin. This is not something that is maybe you should. It sounds like a good idea. No, it is a good idea. It is essential that you find peace within your own skin. Your longest relationship and your most significant relationship is the one that you have with yourself. Of course, yes, God first, but with yourself. In the natural, this is the most significant relationship. Nothing trumps it. You must be at peace within yourself. And so it's going to become crucial that you deconstruct this way of thinking. It's something that has been taught to you. And just like you had to learn how to think that way, and you had to learn it through gaslighting, of course, through walking on eggshells, through being devalued, through the way they spoke to you, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse even. You were taught this way of thinking through acts of abandonment, rejection, all of those things. So if you could learn how to think that way, you can also learn a new way of thinking. You have to derail that way of thinking. You have to derail that programming, or it will derail you. And I want you to know, and I think it's important that I highlight to you, that there is a difference between self-gaslighting and humility. You see, humility does not fixate itself on weakness. That is what self-gaslighting does. It places your weakness on a pedestal to the point that it becomes, you can't even focus on anything else. You can't even move. You become immobile in some areas. and it overtakes you. That is not humility. That is self-gaslighting. Also remember that your healing journey is not linear. So just because you may be able to derail the thought today, it doesn't mean that in 6 months it won't try to resurrect its ugly head. But because you're able to do it today, that is a reminder for you that you have the strength within you to do it again in 6 months. Your healing journey is going to be up and down, up and down. You're going to have some long stretches of peace, but then it can come up again. It just fluctuates. It's erratic. But continue to work through it. You have the power. Remember, you are that fearless one. That's right. You're the one who can come from behind. You are the one who can come forth, and you can do this. There are some things that you are going to have to do in order for you to experience success with this battle within. You're going to start having to ask some questions and confronting these thoughts. First of all, let's be very clear. These are illegal thoughts. They have no right to form in your mind. And so we're going to start deconstructing them. And so one of the questions that you need to ask yourself, whose opinion is this? They emanate from your subconscious. And one thing that we know about narcissists is that they attack your mind first. If you've been listening to me for any period of time, you know that one of my sweet spot is talking to you about the power of your mind. Your mind is powerful. And this is where the narcissist attacks you. Because whoever has control of your mind has control of you. These thoughts emanate from your subconscious. The narcissist will begin the conversation or begin these degrading, these debasing thoughts or conversations, assaults, insults on a conscious level. But they will begin to amp up their efforts. They will begin to amp up the shenanigans and speak those things frequently. That will set those words into the atmosphere and give them, and sometimes we come into agreement with these words when we think, maybe if I had made a better choice, or if I was different, or if, and we start coming into agreement, maybe not even knowing what we are doing, giving these things permission to exist, just not even knowing. And they seep into our subconscious. We know that these people also speak to their victims while they sleep. But they emanate from your subconscious because you've heard them repeatedly. Sometimes it starts in your childhood and it just never ends. Even while you're an adult, you still hear the same thing. And then you're just having a bad day and they creep up. The bottom line is that someone outside of you convinced you that that is who you are. And it is crucial, it is imperative that you separate yourself from this identity. It is a false identity. Whose opinion is this? Another question that I want you to ask yourself is, do your friends talk to you or talk about you like this? Would they ever talk about you like this? Why I'm asking you this is because sometimes it's difficult to identify the true source of these thoughts. How is it difficult? Well, because sometimes it's not a person that injects these thoughts into us, but rather it's experiences. You are always disappointed by people. You're always let down. And so you always feel not good enough to have certain things or to experience happiness or to be loved or to be secure. You just never feel like you are good enough. You are always abandoned. You are abandoned. You have that childhood injury, and every relationship, every significant relationship afterwards has been the same. That abandonment issue, that rejection, you're always isolated, and it just seems like a steady pattern throughout your life. And these thoughts continue to creep up in you because that's what you're able to identify. So you may not be able to attach a person to the thought, but the emotion is still the same. And so that's why I want you to ask yourself, do your friends talk about you like this? Would they ever talk about you like this? It's important that you ask this because it's going to bring the truth into focus. Because at the core, this is self-deception. And our goal is to eradicate these deceiving thoughts. Again, they're illegal, they're inaccurate, and we're bringing you, the authentic you, back into focus. And so when I say your friends, I'm talking about people who love you, those who want the best for you. Would they say those things about you? These are the people that speak life into you without you even having to say, those that stand by you, those that speak life into your dreams and your goals, that ask you, in fact, not even ask you, but those that want you to reach higher. They see you, they see you where you are, but they know that there's so much more in you, and they support that, the highest version of you, those ones. So then, even in that moment now, when you've asked yourself, would your friends talk about you like that? Then next thing you should do is consider, could you possibly be overreacting about a situation, especially if you're having a bad day? And that's not to take away from the fact that you're having a bad day, because we do have bad days, but we don't want to let this thought, this illegal thought, this inaccurate thought, this moment of self-deception become more than it needs to be. It needs to be eradicated. Remember, it's inaccurate. This is not who you are. We want the real you to come through. And one thing I want you to also know is that, would you talk to your friends like this? Because one thing about us is that we have an ability to always speak kindly to our friends, but we may not be the same way with ourselves. Would you speak to your friend the way that you are in that moment of vulnerability? How would you speak to somebody that you love? The goal is to be comfortable living in your own skin. Is that moment, is that thought serving your ultimate goal? Another thing that you have to do, and why I asked you, where is this thought of originating from, is so that you can visualize this thought as a person. That's right. I want you to visualize this thought as a person. And I know it may sound crazy, but just bear with me for a moment, because desperate times call for desperate measures. And I think when these thoughts pop up, we got to get a bit radical. This is what I did when I found myself having these crazy thoughts, because they were trying to take me out. And I was like, no, we've been down this road before. I'm sick and tired of these raggedy, dusty thoughts. You got to go. And you're not going to take me out. I'm going to take you out. I taught my children this very strategy, and I've also used it with my coaching clients. And it takes time. You're not going to just master this thing overnight, because it feels weird at first. But you're going to take this thought and you're going to visualize it as a person. And you're going to talk to this thing, because honestly, when it gets that bad and it gets to the point where it begins to really affect your life, we have to, it's time out. We got to talk about it. So you may stand in front of the mirror. You may stand this person in the corner. You can yoke them up, do what you got to do. Like I said, desperate times call for desperate measures. We're getting radical right about now. It's time to talk this thing out, and let's get some things out in the atmosphere. You want to ask this person why they would even have the nerve to step to you like that. They don't even know you. Why would you do this? And the goal of this is that what we want to do is establish a boundary. You see, the purpose of boundaries is to protect and preserve who you are in this moment. But not only just to protect and preserve who you are now, but to protect and to preserve who you are becoming. Now, one thing about people like this person, like this thought, They're not even going to respect your boundary. They're going to violate it. Remember, your healing journey is not linear. You're going to have stretches of that are good, that are restful, that are peaceful. But you're also going to have those valley moments, those pit moments where these thoughts are going to try and violate your boundary. And this is why it's so important that you recognize that it is always your responsibility to respect and honor your boundaries. Always. The onus is always on you. So when this person shows their evil head again, when they raise that ugly head again, when that thought comes up and tries to disturb your peace, you need to hold that person, or you need to look that person in their face and tell them where to go. You need to face this person again and confront the matter and tell them, didn't I tell you the last time that you better not come back here talking this mess? What do you want? Silence them. We're silencing every demon and devil that tries to destroy our peace. No more. It gotta go. Every contrary thought that comes against your peace must die. It's gotta go. Another thing is to consider other points of view. What do I mean? Take a look at all your abilities, the totality of who you are as a person. What this is going to do is create some middle ground for you to work with. The goal is to recognize that you don't have to be perfect. And I know we say this, well, we don't have to be perfect, but like for real, you don't have to be perfect. You are human. Sometimes we feel like when one weakness pops up and you just say, you know what, I'm just feeling worthless today because maybe you missed the mark. But you missed the mark at what? Maybe you didn't get a project in on, you didn't get a project in on time at work. Does that make you worthless? I beg to think differently. That just makes you human. What was going on in your life at the time that you couldn't get the project in on time? Yeah, our bosses don't always understand these things, but that doesn't take away that they may have been extenuating circumstances, situations in your life. You are human. You are allowed to have a bad day in case you forgot. You are human. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are human. You are allowed to have vulnerable moments. You are human. You are allowed to experience your emotions. They do not define you. Again, your emotions are not an indictment on your character. They are actually evidence that you are human. Own your truth. But never allow voices that are outside of you and outside of the word of God or whatever faith you ascribe to define who you are. Validate your emotions. When we start shutting down on our emotions, I think we shut out such an essential part of our being, and we shut out our essential voice. And we deny ourselves the right to be. Never, ever do that. That is part of what makes you unique. That is part of what defines you. That is part of what makes you you. The essence of who you are. That sets you apart from everybody else. The last thing is to change your focus. You got to recognize that those thoughts are unproductive. They are not serving you. In fact, they are a disservice. They are working against you. They are working against your peace. And this is where you need to start practicing mindful awareness. What am I saying? You need to identify these thoughts. And when they come up, when they raise that ugly head, do not respond. You know how when the phone rings and you look at it and it says spam likely? We tend not to answer these calls. In fact, if you're me, let me tell you, if it comes up and it's spam likely, I wait till it stops ringing and I wait and I go check the number and it goes under the block. I block these numbers because I don't want my peace disturbed. On my own phone, you trying to harass me on my own phone? Raggedy thought, in my own skin, you want to cause unrest. Listen, no, it's not going to happen. Just like I don't answer that call, just like you wouldn't answer that call. Like, listen, we all have that. Well, yeah, we all have that ex, since this is a community of, of survivors of narcissistic abuse. We all have that ex that we would put on our phone if we were going to save their number and not just block them, that we would put psychopath, we would put sociopath, or we would put narcopath. We would put some name for them, that if they ever called, we know not to answer the phone. It's the same thing. We don't respond to these thoughts. It's no contact. And so just like we would be no contact, just like we wouldn't allow a random person, remember, I said to you, visualize this person, visualize this thought as a person. We wouldn't give them the time of day. We wouldn't give them any play. We wouldn't give them our attention. In fact, we actually created a boundary to say, yeah, we drew a line in the sand, and you're not going to disturb our peace. That's where that mindfulness, that mindful awareness comes into play, that we're not doing this anymore with you. When this thought comes up, we replace it with another thought. We get busy. We do something. We engage in an activity that is going to cause us to snap out of it, whether we put our hands in ice cold water, whether we go for a run, whether we go for a drive, whether we play loud music, whether we dance, we do something, whether we begin to speak our affirmations out loud, whether we begin to sing our favorite songs and dance, whether we jump into a cold shower, whatever it's going to take to change that thought pattern and break that thought, that's what we do. Like always, I encourage you that if you really struggle with self-gaslighting, and be honest with yourself, how serious is that battle within? Because like I said to you earlier, this is one that you must conquer. You can't placate your feelings and emotions and say, I got it, or win at this battle. It's important. Therapy, counseling, get a coach, do what you have to do. But whatever you do, win. I want to thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your time, and I want to just remind you, fearless one, keep coming from behind. Come forth. You can do this. God bless you.